So in this video, I tried using Argus and Sun in the gold lane. Whenever I use a hero, I quickly notice whether they're good or not. And what I can say is that Sun is okay. He's viable. But Argus? I really wouldn't recommend him because he's extremely difficult to make work in the gold lane. Throughout this video, I'll explain why. So in the first game, I used Sun, and I was up against Wanwan, which we all know is a really strong against fighters, mainly because of her passive and second skill. Usually, when I play a fighter in the gold lane, I always struggle in the laning phase because of the enemy's range advantage. That's why I always turret hug at the start until I get my first item. I only start fighting back once I know I have a chance to kill my opponent. So far, there are 3 fighters that I know can work well in the gold lane, no matter what rank you are, whether you're an epic or even mythical immortal. As long as they don't get countered, they can keep up with marksmen. For me, the strongest is Freya. If you already have her and want to rank up quickly, just spam her. She's rarely banned in low ranks and is extremely hard to deal with if not countered, as long as you know how to use her properly. This is just based on my experience, though. You can also use Masha and Alucard. These 3 are my top picks for gold lane fighters. I've seen comments saying that if I go up against a pro player using Granger in the gold lane, my heroes wouldn't stand a chance. And honestly, that's pretty funny, because of course it's a pro player using a meta hero. It's not surprising if I get destroyed. And how small is the chance of facing a pro player in a solo rank game? Pretty much close to 0. If we're just talking about strong players in ranked games, I've already crushed plenty of them. I know fighters will always have a disadvantage against marksmen, but the fact that I can still win despite those disadvantages, that feeling is just amazing. Anyway, Sun is actually a great pick because he can easily close the gap when engaging, thanks to his second and third skills. He can also burst down enemies with his combo, especially if you pair it with Petrify. But my suggestion is to wait until you have 1 or 2 items before fighting back. Make sure you can actually burst down the enemy marksman first. His second skill is also an amazing escape skill, and if you get low on HP, just use your clone on jungle creeps to heal up. Don't use it on enemy heroes because they'll just kill the clone immediately, and you won't get any healing from it. Especially during the laning phase. If your opponent is harassing you and your HP gets low, just throw your first skill at the jungle creeps to heal up. That way, you won't need to go back to base even if you don't have lifesteal items. Pushing won't be a problem either because Sun is actually better at pushing than most marksmen. Even the other heroes I mentioned earlier won't give you any trouble when it comes to pushing. They're especially strong for split pushing when you're alone, definitely better than most marksmen because they can hold their own without needing teammates. But of course, each hero has their own advantages and disadvantages. What's more important is playing smart and having a high game IQ. Turn your opponent's strengths into their weaknesses. For example, if they know they have the advantage, they'll tend to play overly aggressive. That's your window to turn the situation around. Here my teammates got outplayed and all 4 of them were wiped out. I knew there was nothing I could do about it, so I just focused on pushing instead. Trading 4 teammates for an inhibitor turret still felt like a win to me, unless the enemy also managed to secure objectives in return. Suyu would have been dead here if he hadn't used Retribution on my clone. I didn't chase him anymore since all my skills were on cooldown. Here I saw that Suyu was alone since his teammates were far away on the map, so I immediately went in. I don't know what Lucas was waiting for. He should have gone in first instead of hesitating like he was waiting for Christmas. But regardless, we still managed to take him down. And we secured the Lord. This Petrify was so satisfying, I caught 3 of them, and I was even about to get a triple kill. It could have been a maniac, but I didn't see Tigreal and I was out of HP and had no skills left. I almost died because Wanwan managed to activate her ultimate, but luckily, it fell short.
Victory!
Next game, I used Argus, and honestly, I'm not liking this hero right now. Before his revamp, I really enjoyed playing him, but now he just feels terrible. He's so weak in the early to mid game and only becomes strong in the late game. Even if you put him in the gold lane to speed up his scaling, he still feels awful. I wouldn't recommend using him in the gold lane at all. He's probably better in the EXP lane, where he can at least act as a damage sponge for the team. In the gold lane, his laning is just terrible. Fighters already struggle against marksmen, But Argus struggles even more because he has no mobility and can be harassed easily. Even when he reaches level 4, he still can't reliably kill a marksman. The only way to make him work is if your teammates constantly help you, like in this game. But you can't always expect that to happen. The whole point of picking a fighter is that you should be able to handle your lane solo. But with Argus, you're forced to rely on teammates visiting your lane. That's why he's so bad in the gold lane. Marksman can dominate him in the laning phase, and even if he reaches the mid to late game, you still can't say for sure that he'll win fights, especially against high mobility enemies. The only matchups where Argus might work are against low mobility marksmen like Layla and Hanabi. Against them, you might actually make him work. His skill cooldowns are also way too long, especially in the early game, making even basic minion clearing a struggle. If you're up against a skilled opponent, you'll have an even harder time, and there's a high chance you won't even make it to the late game. Another overlooked issue is the foreswing and backswing of his skills. Good players know how important it is to cast skills quickly without any unnecessary delay after activation. Look at what happened to Brody. Just reducing his skill foreswing and backswing had a huge impact, making him viable in the meta. Argus really needs similar adjustments. So I was able to survive Gojo's ultimate here because of my immortality, but there was no escaping Franco's ultimate. You really can't cast your own ultimate when you're under suppression. But aside from suppression, you can actually cast Argus's ultimate even while affected by any other type of crowd control, which is one good thing about him. I knew that in this game, I just made a mistake because I didn't realize Alpha was there. However, one downside of his ultimate is that after activating it, there's a slight delay before you can start basic attacking again. I really find his skills too slow to cast. Honestly, if they just speed up his skills, Argus could actually be viable. Right now, you can't even properly pull off his supposed combo. First skill, second skill, then 2 enhanced basic attacks, if the enemy has a dash or blink skill. You just don't have enough time, especially when opponents build tough boots, which is super common because of its huge benefits. Our Zilong in this game was a total feeder. While we were fighting, he was busy stealing buffs from our own jungler. That's the perfect example of the dark system. Not only are you useless, but you're also dragging the whole team down. It's fine if you're not good at the game. You'll improve eventually. But stupidity? There's no cure for that. This is exactly why there are so many toxic and trash players in this game. I thought Joy was about to get a savage here, but she fell short. She ended up dying, so the kills went to me instead. Also, if you noticed what I did, I activated my ultimate before Franco could use his ult on me. Suppression is a counter to Argus, but timing is still everything. I played another game with Argus, but this time, I used Warcry instead of Temporal Rain. What do you guys think? Which one is more effective for him? This game was insane. There was non-stop action in the gold lane. Good thing Argus felt almost immortal, even without using his ultimate. Even in the early game, the enemies kept rotating to my lane, but luckily my teammates also helped, so it was manageable. But if your teammates don't check the map and refuse to assist you in the gold lane, Argus feels completely useless compared to the other fighters I've used. The fights here just never seemed to stop. One would end, and another would start right away. Argus's build should be pure critical, never build anything else. Especially Golden Staff, since it has no benefits for him at all. Corrosion Scythe is a great item for him because it slows enemies, which is a huge advantage for Argus. I also saw some comments saying Corrosion Scythe is meant for marksmen, but as far as I know it's actually designed for attack speed fighters because when used on marksmen, the effects get half, meaning it's not meant for them. It's similar to Rose Gold Meteor. It's meant for fighters with high lifesteal. But despite that, marksmen still build it, even though the effects are reduced, simply because it's still beneficial for them. The enemies kept diving in even though they were already at a disadvantage. I already had 10 assists, but only 3 kills because Argus's early game damage is so low that he can barely secure kills. The opponents weren't even that good, but I still felt weak. Maybe I'm just bad at using Argus. Who knows? Maybe you're better and can actually make him work in the gold lane. I didn't include boots in my Argus build, and I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing. Do you still build boots when using Argus? What do you think is the difference? Here, I cast my ultimate too early, so the second phase didn't even trigger. What if you could manually decide when to activate the second phase? Like after using your ultimate, you could press it again to trigger it whenever you want. Would that make Argus overpowered, or would it just make him more viable? Watch what happens here. We looked like we had the game won, but then Helkurt started split pushing in the top lane. It seems like we might actually lose because my teammates didn't notice it.
Initiate retreat. Launch attack. Double kill. Is under attack.
But yeah, good thing we still won. It was really close. Our minion's HP was barely hanging on.